YouTubes, how you all doing? I hope you're all well and welcome back to the channel. Today's video I'm going to try to show you how you could do a bumper repair at home with the most basic amount of materials and equipment. So I'm going to do this job here. I'll show you what it is and I'll show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to try and keep it to the most minimum amount of stuff that you would need to achieve this. I'm going to do this job with rattle cans. So I'll show you the car and show you the job we're going to do. So it's an electric Mini, and it's got a bit of bumper damage here. So it's a little bit creased through here and scratched a little bit, and it's caught the impact bar and it's split it as well there. So we're going to do this bumper corner smart repair, and I'm going to do it outside with rattle cans, and try to show you how you could achieve this at home yourself. So I'll just go through what I've got to do this job. So I think this is sort of bare minimum really. Right, so I'm not going to use any electric tools as such. Try and do it all by hand. So this is what I think you would need to do this job. So sanding wise, grit wise, you would need 320 grit, 180 grit. You could either buy that as production paper, so you could buy it probably from your paint factor. You could probably buy it as individual sheets as production paper, or buy it as sanding discs. You may be able to buy them on Amazon. So 320 grit, 180 grit, and a sheet of 800 grit wet and dry, and a sheet of 2000 grit wet and dry. So the colour, I've got the colour mixed, got the colour code off of this car. It's midnight black A94, so I've got the colour code, got that mixed in solvent base coat in an aerosol can. I've got some single pack 1K clear coat, and I've got some high build primer in light grey. So that's the three paints that you would need to do this. I've got a small tin of filler, just a universal filler. This one's quite expensive, Terrason, so you could get cheaper than this. But all these things you should be able to get from Halfords, or your local paint supply will be able to sell you this. You wouldn't have to buy a whole box of discs and a whole box of this. You could probably buy individual sheets, or even like B&Q would probably sell stuff like this. So that's what we got to do it so far. Some microfiber cloths. I've got a small cheap block here. There's a couple you could sort of look for. You could have that type of block, probably find that on Amazon, or these are quite cheap. Or if you didn't want to buy a block, you could probably use a block of wood. Make a block of wood about that size, sand the edges a little bit smoother, so they're not so sharp on the edges, and use a block of wood. Hot air gun and a hairdryer. You definitely need a hot air gun. A hairdryer would be handy as well. If you've got a compressor, it would be handy to have an airline for blowing, but I'll see if I can do this without using an airline as well. But it would be handy to have an airline. So that's it, just an old flat-headed screwdriver as well, to do the repair. So that's the damage. So the first thing I'm going to do is also a small buffing head that would just go on any drill. So a small buffing head that would go on any drill, and some compound, some polishing compound. You could buy small bottles. This is just a fine cut. This is going to be for polishing it up beforehand, and to polish your clear coat afterwards. I'm going to do my best to try and make this as short as possible, and just trying to explain it. It's not scripted, you know me. I'm not one to have anything scripted. So I'm just going to go with it and try and show you how to repair this. I'm going to do it outside. Masking wise, you want just a roll of 1-inch tape. One roll will be enough for a job this size, and you could use newspaper for masking. I am going to use masking paper because obviously I've got it here. but you could use newspaper, it wouldn't be a problem. But I'll show you anyway with masking paper. Right, so that's basically it. That should do this job. I'm going to do it outside as well. I'm not going to do it in the booth or in the workshop. I'm going to do it outside. So the first thing I do, also, yeah, you would want some sort of degreaser. So I have got solvent degreaser here, but you could probably use any alcohol-based type cleaner. Windoline might work as well as a cleaner and a degreaser. And what else could you, yeah, any sort of nail varnish remover would probably work. So if you didn't want to go and buy those other items like degrease and stuff, you could use that type of thing. Windoline would probably work. So the first thing we want to do is we're just going to clean this up. Going to clean the whole bumper off with some degreaser. I've wiped it down already with some water, so get any dirt off, then degrease it all. And then, so our repair area is going to be here and colour area is going to be here. We're going to come off of this line and we're going to blend into the middle of the bumper with it, with the clear coat. So I'm going to polish with my little polisher on the drill. I'm just going to polish up all this section first before I do anything else. And then once I've done that, we'll start tackling this repair. So yeah, let's get it all cleaned down and get that area polished first, and then we'll crack on. So I'm just going to polish with this little polish head on the drill. Just going to polish through all this area here, because we're going to sort of be losing the clear coat in the middle. So bit of a degrease, whatever you're using. You just want to get that area where you're blending, you just want to get the paint just nice and clean really. Like this bumper's got scratches all over it, but just want to get the paintwork as clean and contamination free as possible in the blend area. What we're going to do on this one is like, all bumpers are different obviously, but quite often you'll have a feature line here, so everything's below this feature line, so we're going to use this edge to mask off of, so we haven't got to start painting and clear coating in this section here. The first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to warm this up a little bit and get this to meet with the rest of the bumper, because it's obviously sticking out proud at the moment. So just got just a normal basic hammer.
Use that the one we use for the iron?
Yeah. Yeah. You just want to get this warm, don't want to get it like really hot, but just so we can get this back in. So now what I'll do is I'll just put some tape around the surrounding areas, because we're going to start repairing it now. Managed to take this trim off, but this is all part of the bumper. It's connected to the bumper, so we'd have to take the bumper off to get this off. But if you can get tape and slide it in gaps and then push it away. I Right, so now I'm just going to take the paint off around this split now. That's using 180 grit to start with, so it's 180 grit. Just get the paint off around the split. Now what I'm going to do is just I'm going to heat the end of this up, just an old flat-headed screwdriver, and we're going to warm this up a little bit as well at the same time, and just try and melt these two bits of plastic together, melt this crack together. Try and get this nice and hot. Heat it for a while and then try it to see if it is melting. So yeah, basically just try and take your time and just get the hot screwdriver and sort of melt down the middle of the crack, and then try and drag the melted plastic across it as well, and sort of do it like that, and then let it cool and we'll see how strong it is. Right, so that's cooled down now, and it seems pretty strong. It seems okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to sand off all this rough where it's melted, and on this job as well, there's a crease through here. It goes all the way round through here as well, so we're going to have to fill that as well. You know, you could, certain bumpers, you could get behind that and try and warm that up and push it out, but I'm just going to fill that because we're filling this anyway. So first thing I'm going to do is scuff it all up and block it. So we need to key all the area where we're putting filler. So I need to key round here to here and around here. and we need to fill all of this. So I'm just going to use a 180 grit on the block and just sand it all by hand, get it all scratched up and keyed up, get all this roughness off and try and find a level with it. When you block it, you can see the lows then, so we'll block it a little bit more. This is low in there, but it's going to be okay for filler. Just keep feeling really to feel where there might be some areas that need a bit more sanding, and then just to get in there, just going to scratch it a little bit by hand so the filler will stick then in that crease, also the crease there. That's ready now. So ideally you'd want an airline to blow this off, but I have got an airline obviously, but I'm going to do it with a hairdryer. That would work. And whatever you're using for degreaser, whatever your degreaser cleaner is, just give it another little clean. And I just dry the degreaser out. Now we're ready for some filler. Right, so I've got my filler. This one is quite an expensive one, but I don't use this anymore, so I thought I'd use it just to sort of give you a reference size of a tin. Maybe like you might be able to get this size or maybe a bit smaller. You just sort of want a universal filler really. And you normally get a spreader with a new tin, and then a couple of bits of cardboard to mix it on. So sort of ratio wise, depending on the temperature, it's sort of a golf ball size of filler to a pea size of hardener. But if it's colder, I'd probably do a golf ball filler, 2 peas hardener. So that's probably going to be about enough for that. A little bit more. So that's probably a golf ball size, probably a couple of golf ball sizes. So what I'd normally do is I'd just do a strip across that and a little bit extra, and then just mix it all in, keep turning it over, spreading it. Make sure it's all mixed in, and then sort of just spread it out on the piece of cardboard to try and eliminate pinholes, get the air out of it. And wipe off your excess off of that. Then just start off small at first, just get it on there. I use just the flat end of the spreader, sort of scrape it off a little bit. Again on there, get it on there, scrape it off a little bit. little bit up there as well. So yeah, so when you finish putting the filler in, remember to clean your spreader off. Bit of tissue or microfibers. If you've got degreaser, use that while it's still wet. Get the bulk of it off, and then just make sure you clean up your spreader, because you're going to need it again for the next skim, because it definitely would want another skim, without a doubt. I've just got a bit of paint thinners. You might not have that to hand, but any sort of solvent-based, alcohol-based, you know, whatever cleaner you're using for this job, for the job that you're doing, that will clean off the filler while it's still wet. And I will wear gloves next time. I normally wear gloves. You might not have gloves, so maybe I won't wear gloves. Right, so now the filler's gone off, check it, give it a scratch test. And if it scratches and it doesn't pick away, that's dry enough. So I'm going to sand this down with 180. So 180 grit on a block. You do need a block really. Like I say, you could use a piece of wood or buy one of those cheap rubber blocks. Even these rubber Velcro blocks are cheap to use, but if you haven't got any of that and you don't want to buy it, then a block of wood would do it. Just wrap the sanding disc, or if you've got production paper, cut in a square, wrap that around the block and do it the same way, and just keep consistently sanding all over it. Just follow the direction of the panel. Shut the boot of their car as well. You want to try and keep it level, and if you do circles as well, and to feather in the filler into the existing paintwork. Just keep checking it with your hand, see if you can feel any edges on the edges of the filler. Check your disc as well. Get, you know, any bulky filler that's on there, scratch it off. So just keep feeling it really. If you feel any bumps or lumps, then yeah, maybe it would probably need some more in there. And then check for pinholes. So I'm going to try not to use the airline on this. So I know if you haven't got an airline, use a hairdryer and get it all blown off and cleaned off. So we're nearly there. There's a little bit of a bump there, so I'm going to just warm that up and push that down a little bit. So if you do feel a bit of a lump that's sticking up, just warm it up gently and just push it down and hold it down. You could just use your screwdriver butt, or even push something flat against it. And then I just want one more skim then. Right, so we're going to give it another skim, same procedure as before with the mixing. Probably don't need so much now, most of it's there, just a few imperfections where this was sticking up a little bit and a few little pinholes. So on this spread I'm sort of going to try and get it tighter, so sort of push the filler into it where we're not trying to layer it up, just push it into it. Just try and get it on there smooth as you can. If it's not that smooth, it doesn't matter, just makes the rubbing a bit longer, that's all. But yeah, we'll mix some more up and get one more skim over this. We want to skim a little bit further than we've skimmed before and just cover the whole lot and push it all in, sort of same as before really. Right, so this has gone off now, little scratch test, scratching up. So same again now, we just sand this with 180 grit. You might find that when you first, some fillers, when you first sand it, it might clog up a little bit. So I'm going to use the bit that I've used so far, just one piece of sandpaper, and knock the top off, and then I'm probably going to use a new bit then, once I've cut through the top layer. Should wear a dust mask as well. In fact, I'll go and get one. Right, so now that feels like the repair's almost there now. So that's been 180 grit all the way through so far, and just a combination of letting the block follow the shape of it, directional, and then coming across diagonal and circles, and try not to go too far with the scratches further up there, so we want to try and keep it as small as possible. But it's almost there now. Just keep feeding it, feel the transition with your tips of your fingers between the edges of the filler. If you can feel a bit, like you can still feel a little bit there, just a little bit more sanding, and then sort of a bit lighter pressure towards the end, just to sort of try and transition everything in circles. Just go around it all. You're going to have little bits of untidy filler elsewhere, you know, like I could have put a bit of tape across the top of that to stop filler going up there, which I should have done really. But so yeah, that's almost there now. So what we need to do is we need to refine these scratches now to 320 grit. So go from 180, and we do the same as what we've been doing, but with 320 grit now, and then we start sanding all the scratches around. So we need to get these scratches out so it's all finished in 320 grit. So around where you have done the filler, we finish all these scratches in the plastic with 320. Again, around the filler here, again, get them scratches out that are 180 scratches, get them out so they're finished in 320. Right, so that's about it. Check it all, check your edges, any little bits of filler, get them off with 320 grit. Try and obviously where you're going to mask to, You want to keep the scratches away from that as much as possible, but it all feels okay. Just check your edges. You know, you can feel slight wobbles in it. If you know, you could block a little bit more if you feel any wobbles, but make sure the transition between your paint and the plastic and your filler feels pretty smooth, so you won't see any of that in the paint. Then if it won't pick up any edges if you haven't feathered it into it. So that feels pretty good to me. Just a little bit there. So now this is all finished in 320. So now we'll just get this blown off, get it cleaned off, and we'll do the preparation for the paint. Right, so now it's cleaned down. Now we just want to check the filler for pinholes. This looks okay, I think it's all right. So if you do find any small pinholes, it's common to find pinholes in filler, then just mix up a little bit more and just you know, say if I had a few pinholes dotted about, just get a small bit of filler on your spreader and just wipe it in there, and then sort of wipe off the excess so it just sits in there. Then it just be a little, once that's gone off, just be a little rub with some 320 just to blend off any excess filler around it. You don't need to go sort of lumping it in there. Just push it in tight with a spreader at a bit of an angle and bend it a little bit and just push it in the pinholes, and that'll be fine for that. But this looks okay for pinholes. So now it's all cleaned down. I must admit, it would be handy if you had an airline, so I've had to blow myself off. But if you haven't, something that blows air like a hairdryer or something will work. So I'm trying to do this with bare minimum stuff, and trying to achieve the best results with bare minimum stuff. So that's it now, that's ready. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to prep everything up now. So the grey Scotch Brite or scuff pad, grey one, with a little bit of water. You know, try to avoid getting any water on the filler, but if you do, then we dry it all out with a hairdryer. So all the shiny paint now. So up here, we're going to key it all up with water and Scotch Brite. Up here, around here, we're going to go up to this edge. It doesn't matter if you go over the edge a little bit with the Scotch Brite, and we're going to go halfway down the panel with the Scotch Brite, so to about here. So all of this section as well, with water and a Scotch Brite. Get right up to the edges. Keep going over it. Don't need massive amounts of water, just so it's wet enough to move around. Up in the corners, get your fingers on the edges. I say try to avoid any water on the filler. You might get a little bit on there, but as long as we dry it out, it'll be fine. Get around the edges where we're masking. Right, so now we've Scotch Brite it all, and we just clean it down with some water. So spray all the area around it with water. Get your microfiber cloth and clean it all down. Use a hairdryer and dry it all off. Dry out any gaps with a hairdryer, and your filler as well. You get if any moisture's gone on in filler, just dry it out with a hairdryer. Dry out all your gaps and get it all cleaned up around it. So your cloth's a little bit damp, clean a bit further than your scotched area. So once it's all scotched, it should all look nice and matte around the areas where you've repaired. And then we've gone sort of halfway, and we've got a bit of a clean area here that hasn't been Scotch Brite. That's where we're going to blend into this, just past this scotch here. This is where we're going to just blend the lacquer out. So yeah, that's it. It's all clean, it's dried off. You can use your pre-clean again, whatever you're using to clean it, just to clean off the surrounding areas again. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to mask this up for some primer first. So yeah, I'll get this area cleaned down with a bit of pre-clean, and then we'll start masking it up.